Are we there yet? Perth Glory lip towards season's end. A Perth young gun jumps ship to Korea, and the Perth Glory Fan Forum. What needs to be asked and, more importantly, answered? Welcome to the podcast with more backflips than an election campaign. This is the Far Post Perth, powered by ID Athletic. For all your merchandise, all your screen printing, anything you might need in that department, visit idathletic.com. And of course, Trio Homes. If you're looking to build, redesign or renovate, visit triohomes.com.au. Blaine Treadgold is my name, with me going around the table on this episode, James Renton. What's happening, mate?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries at all. Jackson Bassett's with us again.
Good to be back.
Ajax, mate. What's going on there?
It's just a football mystery box shirt and just happened to get Ajax.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Neil Sherwin's with us. You've done the same, mate. Real Madrid.
No mystery box. I just bought this because I liked it.
I like it. Long sleever.
Long sleeve, Modric on the back.
I like it.
Bit hipster.
Yeah, it is a little bit hipster.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Boys, well, let's get into it. Straight off the bat. Good, bad, ugly. James, have we got anything that we can be positive about?
Yeah, I did see You're Good and I was tempted to mention that, but I'll let you mention it because it's fairly important.
You've been looking at my notes.
I just had a quick gaze.
Stealing off my homework.
But I think one of the highlights of the round for me was the Auckland and Western Sydney game, just in the sense of a spectacle both on and off the pitch. Obviously, there was that incident between some of the Auckland and Wanderers fans that wasn't good. But overall, in the sense of the atmosphere that was created by both sides, a good contingent of Wanderers fans travelled over as part of their tour of duty. And then the Port made some good noise as well. And the game itself was a tight, entertaining game. You know, I've mentioned a few times on this podcast that it's been great to see some of the free-flowing attacking games. But it's also been just as good to see some of these tight games, these gritty games. And I think if you're talking about two sides that have the potential to go deep in the finals, it's probably Auckland at 1 and Western Sydney, I thought, put forward a fairly good case. And I think they were fairly unlucky not to come away from this game with a little bit more. I thought going forward they were outstanding.
Where are Wanderers on the table now?
They are fourth.
So how many points off top are they?
Auckland are on 46, Western United 41, Melbourne City 40, and then Western Sydney and Melbourne Victory both on 36.
Okay, so they're a fair bit back, but I mean, they've certainly picked up their straps in this back end of the season.
100%.
Yeah.
And they definitely do look like one of the most dangerous teams, especially when they've got that front four running at you. Even for Auckland, who have been defensively outstanding, they couldn't really deal with it for Wanderers' first goal.
Yep. Jackson, keep us going, mate. What's been good?
It's a bit of old news going back to last week, and this one's over to Germany because keeping an eye on potentially the greatest cup run in European football at the moment.
This is hipster.
Go on.
This is Arminia Bielefeld.
Yeah,
who are they're in the third division in German football, and they've made it into the German Cup final.
They beat Leverkusen.
They beat Leverkusen, and they also have beaten Werder Bremen, Freiburg, Union Berlin, all Bundesliga teams.
Right.
And they beat Hanover, who are mid-table in the second division.
That's a good run.
So they're punching well above their weight, and it wasn't like they got outplayed comprehensively and got lucky in the semi-final. They were very good. They're getting the win. They're very competitive, had nearly half the possession as well, and deserved to go through.
Yeah.
It'd be like Wrexham winning the FA Cup, would be the English equivalent, or like a state league team winning the FA Cup.
Bankrolled by Marvel Studios and whoever else.
No, I don't think so. I haven't looked into it, but no, maybe Marvel should look into.
Sorry, what div are they?
They're in the third division.
Third div. Okay.
And who's the final again?
Stuttgart. So they're definitely a chance.
That'll be a good game.
Yeah, it should be.
That's a hell of a run. Who was that a few years ago? Was it Grimsby Town that had a hell of a run to the
Grimsby Town?
Sutton United with the fat goalie who had a pie.
That was Sutton United or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Coventry.
No, Wickham got to an FA Cup semi-final maybe about 15 years ago.
Yeah,
Coventry last season were against
Grimsby,
United.
because I remember seeing they had a hell of a run, something, and like literally the whole town was like left empty, and that some smart ass put up a sign saying the last one out of the town needs to turn all the lights off. I just thought that was really, really clever. Maybe it was a League Cup or something like that, but it was it was a hell of a run there. Neil, keep us going, mate. In your hipster shirt for your hipster football.
No, ask Joe Lolly today. Sydney FC did
That was good.
That was great.
gave Joel Ollie, and it was definitely him because there was so many bad spelling and grammar errors. So that's how you know it was legit and it wasn't manufactured. The question to Joel Ollie: does the pitch at Allianz feel noticeably different when NRL is also on? Yes, I want NRL banned.
Succinct.
I concur because I watch and enjoy a lot of sport, and that is on the list of absolute shit that I would close my curtains if it was in the
You
backyard.
do rugby though?
No.
You don't? Okay.
Barely.
Yeah.
Doesn't really interest me.
Yeah.
I might go watch the Lions game here just for the novelty factor, but I wouldn't go watch State of Origin. So probably rugby is higher than City League. So league, golf, Test cricket.
Ooh.
They're the three. Absolute waste.
You do
of
Big
time.
Bash or anything?
That's novelty stuff. No. So yeah, put them all. They're all in the category. So when Joe Lolly said that get the NRL out of Allianz, shook my head in agreement. And in a serious point, he's right because we do need to have our own grounds. But part of that, and it's a much bigger conversation, is if you're only playing 13 home games a season, it's hard to justify having single-use stadiums. So it really ties in with the idea of give us more football, lengthen the season, more games. It's going to be better for the junior players. It's going to be better for the players breaking through to senior football. It's going to better prep them for playing in Europe, and it gives you more weight to get out of these shared facilities like Suncorp, like Allianz. You know, I mean, we share with Western Force. It's not too bad because
Well, they only play 6
they
home
play
games.
a
or
few
something.
games. So it's not, and the seasons only overlap for a little bit of the year, so it's not that big a deal. But you do see much more significant impact in those states that have NRL teams. So the options are pretty clear to me. One, you extend the league, you get your own stadiums, or two, to Joe Lolly's point, you just fuck off NRL completely. Just kill the whole sport.
Well, we might have them to deal with if they ever come to Perth as well. So
And see, that's the quandary, right? Because if you want a bigger HBF park, you kind of need them because they get the money. Right, so if an NRL license comes in and we want a 45,000 rectangular stadium, for example, in between Optus and HBF Park, we probably do need to get into bed with them. So I feel dirty just thinking about it.
Yeah, you can get into bed with them. Might be a bit of your thing, Neil.
I was going to make a joke of something, but
I didn't know where I was going either.
Yeah.
That's all good. My good boys, as rubbish as the season has been for Perth Glory fans, I just want to give a big shout out to the Shed Tour because it'd be pretty hard just to say, I can't be bothered and not really kind of get involved. It'd be a pretty hard game to get up for everything else. I know it's a big old, sing along and drink along and everything else like that.
They were louder than the Western fans.
Yeah, no, it's magnificent support, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I just got to tip my lid and say, well done for making the effort because you could have stayed home and spent your thousands of dollars, and let's be honest, that's how much it'd be to go over and spend a weekend over there these days. And
probably booked it months ago and it was non-refundable.
Possibly.
Shit, we got to go anyway.
Well, there you go. Anyway, they did go. They paid their money. They went. They were passionate. They had a good time. Unfortunately, couldn't walk away with the win. But well done to everyone that went, James.
Yeah, and it's important that because it's been going on for a fair bit, these tour duties from the Shed, and well before mine and Jackson's time, obviously. But
I think it goes all the way back to about 99, 2000 or something like that.
And it was good to see such a big contingent there. And you're right; they had every reason to say no. We're not going to go. We were sacking it because the team has been performing badly or the results haven't been there. But no, they were there, and it was good to see that many Glory fans there. It was a really good turnout, I'd say.
Yep, keep us going, mate, with your what's not been so good.
The discourse around Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham and just his situation.
Don't get Neil started, buddy.
Yeah, well,
Don't get him started.
I mean, I found it fairly interesting to wake up that morning when Tottenham had played Chelsea, and that was that infamous, almost, if you like, ear cup to the Tottenham fans when I think it was Sarr that got the goal for Tottenham, but then it was ruled out due to the VAR coming in. The situation just seems a little bit toxic. And obviously we want to see Australian managers and especially someone like Ange doing well over in a big competition like the Premier League, because obviously not many would have thought that an Aussie would ever be managing in the Prem. But yeah, it just seeing some of the fans and their comments towards Ange, and Ange in his press conference even recently where he was talking to one of the journalists about how he doesn't like, the phone being shoved in his face, and they were trying to bait a reaction from him from the fans. It's just a bit of a toxic situation, and I would like to hope for Ange that the results can do the talking rather than the antics at times on the sideline or in the press conference. I think he desperately needs more results to go his way, and I think beating Southampton, albeit while they are going to get relegated, probably would have slightly helped his case, but I think he needs a little bit more.
Unfortunately, it's just the times that we live in. I mean, as soon as you do have that element that people do want to bait you, as soon as there's an incident, especially with you young guys, I'm not talking about you two specifically, but it's that generation that wants to automatically pull out their phone and see if something can go viral.
Get the clip.
There's been a fair few this season of Ange, reacting to
and
it.
He does react. He can be a little bit prickly. I think everyone knows that, but it is part and parcel of the game these days and of technology and where we sit.
Having a shit season though, they're 14th. Like,
no, absolutely.
So I'm not saying he deserves it, but there's a simple answer, and James touched on there: win some games.
But I think he'd be more than like if you were to try and have a proper conversation with him, or with someone like that. I just think they'd be more open to that rather than having a bloody camera phone stuck in their face. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. But I think
I certainly would be.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that just hasn't helped Ange was that comment that he made at the start of the season where he said, "I always win things in my second season," and that created that sense of expectation. And obviously, us.
It's almost like WoW signings. You say something.
It just seems a little bit familiar. But that's the thing. They're now banking on winning the Europa League, and it would be an absolute disaster for Ange if they can't beat Frankfurt over the two legs in the is it the semis or whatever?
Yep.
So they've got to do well.
Quarterfinals.
They've got to do well in that tournament, and they can't afford to get knocked out. Otherwise, that probably will be Ange riding his own to victory.
There you go, Jackson. Keep us rolling, mate.
Sticking in England, Manchester derby this weekend was shocking. Don't know if you watched it, James. I don't know if you stayed up to watch it, Neil, but
I didn't stay up to watch it, and I'm glad I didn't. I watched it when I woke up without knowing the score, and I was constantly hitting the skip 30-second button. Yeah. So it's one of those games where every time it went out for a throw, and I was like, skip 30 seconds, get me closer to the end. So yes.
It was the most boring, lifeless, scoreless draw. There was no spice or feeling in it at all. Didn't feel like a derby. There's two teams who are below their best. City, of course, without Haaland, and kind of just coasting towards hopefully a top four finish. And then the less said about Man United, the better. Really, half the squad couldn't score on a brothel. Just the amount of missed chances. And I think the stat that sums it up was about Kevin De Bruyne. This is the first time he's played a Premier League game. First time he's played the full 90 and not created a single chance in 7 years.
There was a debate actually about is football becoming too rigid in the sense of the tactical demands that are placed on the players, and I think that was something that Gary Neville was touching on at full time, where it's like because the structures itself are so rigid, like with Guardiola, for example, where there's that positional discipline and there's not that element of risk taking. You're sort of losing that level of unpredictability within football, and obviously you're seeing that to a very high extent in the Premier League, but sometimes you're even seeing it here in the A-League, where there's a big focus on system and not so much on individual brilliance or a bit of free-flowing attacking football. And I think that lack of, again, unpredictability within the game, I think, is somewhat being phased out given the level of importance that a lot of coaches seem to be placing on system.
Not that I'm a huge watcher of the Premier League.
Why would you be? You watch the Championship.
No, the Championship, we can talk about that if you want, because it's been some outstanding football in the Championship this season. But just back to my point, it's really missing some. The Premier League, I feel, from the outside looking, is just missing some really big characters. We don't have your Roy Keanes, your Balotellis,
they're gone.
These kind of guys. They're all robots now.
Yep.
And I think that's probably added to the lack of narrative in this particular fixture, Jackson.
Yeah, well, I think there's a complete lack of excitement, really. You had wingers in the past like Hazard, Nani, Ronaldo, who could just take the game by the scruff of the neck, and it wasn't really about the system. It was just give that person the ball, let them run at defenders, do tricks, and create chances and score goals, whereas now it's very rigid. You've got to make sure you keep possession and recycle the ball and create high-quality chances. It's all very statistical, and
boring as batshit.
But you've actually got, this is the thing. City have the players to do that. They have Savinho, Doku, both were started on the bench. The players that started were your tippy tappy, keep the ball. Bernardo Silva's. I think Bernardo Silva recorded the slowest sprint in the league this season.
How was that even recorded?
He's like the slowest for sprinting. That when he gets to his top speed is the lowest of players. Foden having a dreadful season, but as a ball keeper, Gundogan moves maybe 10 yards at a time. Kovacic, another midfield player like that, and De Bruyne, who is now more of a keep the ball than pick the ball up in the edge of the box and drive 60 yards. Whereas on the bench, you Doku, Savinho, players that Guardiola doesn't really trust. Rightly so, because their end product is shocking. If they improved their end product, they'd be much better players. But in that game, it was a very conservative approach at Old Trafford against a United team, which nobody has been afraid to play this season. Everybody's gone to Old Trafford and attacked. City didn't, and it's probably, I don't even think it's a debate. We are absolutely in systems, and you look at what happened with Anthony at United, for example. He's gone to Spain and he's been let off the leash and he's playing well. Anthony was never a bad player. He was just a player that was being shackled, and he looked terrible because he couldn't really get his head around the system. I'd have similar problems with like Garnacho as well now, who is inconsistent but is a player that if you give freedom and confidence has potential to tear teams apart. Jack Grealish is the prime example. When Grealish joined City, he came from Villa, and Jack Grealish is not a bad player. He hasn't become shit over time. He's just he's told exactly where to stand, what to do with the ball. He's a guy that carries the ball and tries to win fouls rather than jinking past 2 or 3 players. He's still got that in the locker. He's proven it, and he was brilliant last week. But then he's back on the bench for the derby. So City's 3 type of flair players that you could play in that game were all benched. Doku, Grealish, Savinho, none of them started, and you keep the ball players played, and as a result they were toothless. And I know we will move on because obviously I have a stake in this, but it's why people are saying that Haaland is having a down season, because Haaland thrives on chances. He's not going to drop into the centre circle, pick up the ball and create. He's there to score goals, but when City are tipping the ball around 30 yards from goal and he's just standing there, he looks useless. Because you're not playing to any of his strengths, and they've definitely lost a lot on that.
Also, like you're saying that systems rather than individual kind of brilliance, to use a bit of overused terminology. But just as I said, just the characters as well. I want to see an incident. I want to see.
They're all mates though. That's the thing. They were all like hugging each other at full time.
Bring back the 90s. It wasn't like
Bring back some bastards.
Bring back, Eric Cantona just booting the crap out of a Nazi fan at Palace and all this kind of stuff, mate. It was good fun, Neil, wasn't it? It was good fun.
I remember it well. Vieira, Keane, Dirt. Some good battles. Van Nistelrooy and Martin Keown and United.
Dyer and Bowyer.
Well, they were the same.
The crap out of each other on the same team. That was awesome.
The same team. That was a different issue. But now, look, we always have, but we romanticize the past, but there's no doubt that it was a bit more blood and thunder, and it had a bit more feeling in it.
Bring back the biff.
Yeah, it's a bit more cinematic these days, I think, football at that level. Yeah. And it's why we go and watch shit instead.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Where are we up to?
Me?
You're up. Yes,
my bad.
Go ahead.
Kind of was mentioned already, and a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but also very serious. We cannot have 40 to 45,000 people turning up to watch fucking Wrexham play a game in Australia. All right, we cannot. That would be bad luck for our culture as an aspiring football nation. Okay, we draw the line somewhere with these pre-season friendlies. Wrexham. I mean, no. It
doesn't appeal to me.
It doesn't move the needle.
You wanted to talk about chicken legs. Let's talk about chicken legs.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, they might be Premier League in 3 or 4 years' time, and there's a novelty factor around them, and it is very easy to access because of the TV show. But it's just a step above Ted Lasso for me, and I don't like Ted Lasso. So, I would be disappointed if 40 to 45,000 people turned up at Marvel Stadium to watch Wrexham play. So it's potential bad. It hasn't happened yet.
No, I can see where you're going with that. Boys, my bad is, a bit of an end of an era with the A-League Off Air podcast, calling it quits this week. That's a little bit unexpected. It was a podcast that I enjoyed listening to.
Another one we've seen off.
Well, yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Who's up next? Just keep battering them away. But it follows the Global Game podcast, and these are people who work in the industry, do it for a living, and it was reported that the Global Game podcast went under because it couldn't get sponsorship. That's, for me, not a great sign of where football sits in the media landscape that's saying that SEN can't get sponsors for one
Not good enough.
flagship football program.
Yeah.
I don't know what the reasoning behind it of the A-League off-air. They said that they've got other things going on. I imagine they probably just did it out of the love more so, and it was a bit of fun. But it was a good bit of banter, and yeah, just we've been talking about it for a while now, but it just further emphasises how much the football media is just shrinking. And I guess it's why we do what we want to do and bring it back, because we wanted to buck that trend.
Yeah, it's a labour of love. You can't you're probably not going to make a living out of football in any aspect. You're going to, as an owner of a club, you're going to lose money year on year. You know, football is not women's footballers in this country and other countries. They work part-time jobs. You know, it filters right down to every aspect of the game. There's very few people in Australian football anyway making money. And it's very hard to do, which is what we're up against, because some of the other codes, much more full-time staff at clubs, full-time media personnel. You're not relying on uni students. You know, you're not relying on volunteers. It's a proper business, whereas football, is just a second-class citizen. And it's another example of it, that the people who are way more experienced at their jobs than we'll ever be and really put the time and effort into it and care about the game and are expert voices can't sustain it. And what do? You lose these people to the game and they go off into the corporate world. It's a massive loss.
No, exactly right. But I mean, I guess it's just a bit of a reminder. If you don't, use it, you do lose it in the end for a lot of these programs. So for anyone listening out there, get into your podcast, support
sponsor us,
your local media. Well, I mean, if that helps us bring more and more, and gives us a little bit more wiggle room, then please do. James, ugly mate.
Brisbane Roar's 5-1 loss. Sorry, Neil. It was a shocker, both on and off the pitch. Suncorp, when it looks empty, it's like watching one of those COVID games. Barely any atmosphere. They've been
cardboard cutouts of Osama bin Laden at Ellen Road kind of style. Not that kind of COVID.
3,899 was the crowd.
That can't be. But even still, that's shocking.
That's Suncorp. It's awful.
That's awful. And obviously, we've spoken about the need for Perry Park to be developed into a boutique stadium, but Brisbane Roar have been. It's embarrassing that the A-League has allowed one of the a club that's got a fantastic history to be run as poorly as they have done. I mean, there's very clear questions over whether the Bakrie Group is fully invested in Brisbane Roar. The performance was just poor, conceding 5 at home in front of 3,000. It's about as bad as it gets, and it just shows that clubs like obviously Glory and Brisbane are so far off the pace compared to where the other A-League sides are. It's almost at the point where, like, well, should the league be stepping in to try and help these teams out if they can't fix it up themselves?
Is this another argument for a fully established national second division?
Yes.
And hear me out a second, because I've always referred to places like Italy where you've got your Serie A, which is national, your Serie B, which is kind of your states or your provinces, and then you've got your Serie C, which is more your regionalista kind of style. There's certain clubs in Australia that would be very, very sustainable in a second division where they don't have to travel as far. Overheads are slightly lower. They might travel within, let's just say you're in New South Wales, they might travel within Queensland or Victoria or something like that, where it's a little bit cheaper, overheads are lower, you can play in a smaller size stadium, but you're going to be much more sustainable. That, for me, is why we need a national second division.
And we need to get it right.
And that, for me, is why I will always kick back when people say, oh, well, if your side gets relegated, that's the end of them. It won't be the end of them, because you become more sustainable because you're playing at a level that suits you much, much better. There are clubs like, I'm going to throw Perth in this mix because they're at that level at the moment. Newcastle and Brisbane are probably those three, based on where they are in terms of adding up their football, the way that they operate, facilities, everything else like that, are probably what would be deemed to be a higher second-tier club.
Yep, and there's been a lot of talk about how we need to get a proper football pyramid going, and for as much as it would be positive for clubs that from that second tier to eventually go to the A-League, I think it's also important that if there are A-League clubs that aren't performing, then they need to go and maybe someone else should come in and see if they can do a better job.
Absolutely. Yeah. Give clubs the opportunity. I don't know we're talking in hypotheticals, but this is just all part of the reason why we need to get to that point.
100%.
Jackson.
Isn't also maybe it's a little bit of a worry though that, we're seeing in I'm going to use the Premier League as an example, obviously, but it just seems like we're just getting the constant same three teams coming back up and down again. Is there a little bit of worry that, if the second division was to come into here, we might have that factor in a little bit as well? And it needs to be a lot of yo-yoing.
My argument would be, does it matter? Because they're the teams that have won the right to be able to go up on that season.
Yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's where I'd be at.
Yeah, I just think it just needs...
Norwich were the serial yo-yo club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think if we're going to...
Not so much Leeds United, but
if we're going to do it, I think we need to make it possible that teams from who are coming up have a realistic chance or a decent chance of actually staying in rather than just coming back up and down and just getting the same clubs just going back and forth.
Do you know how to get up to the top division? Be better. Simple as that. Just be better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, don't get me wrong, but essentially that's what it comes down to. Go ahead, mate.
The antisocial behaviour at the Auckland game. Obviously, the game itself was entertaining, but some fracas in the stands, a couple of people arrested, 8 evicted, and then most of us probably would have seen the one fan who ended up in hospital, had to undergo surgery and...
broken jaw.
Yeah, it's just football not doing ourselves any favours, especially given the fact that we had the guns at the AFL and some fighting in the NRL in the stands. And then this was a chance for the A-League just to coast along and just let those guys just, be the talk of all the negativity. But unfortunately, just shooting ourselves in the foot with these little instances again. And it's unfortunate because Auckland's been really good this season. The crowds have been great, and it seems like the Port's been a great place to be. And on the offset, it seems like they've gotten along well, or it's been fine with them and opposition fans, but when the Wanderers come into town, it's a bit of a different story. But yeah, it's a bit of a dampener on the weekend.
Yep, no, fair enough. Keep us going, Neil.
Oh, well, we'll talk about it in the next part, but it's just the manner in which Glory contrived to concede goals. New and wonderful ways. And we all know what I'm talking about from the Western United game. So just really, it's not even mentioned at the week. It's not even funny anymore.
No,
you used to laugh and go, God, that's such a shocking own goal. I think it was the Wanderers game at home where Merchant and Labib kicked the ball off each other and it spun into that. And you're going, that's hilarious. Yeah. That's mid-season. By the end of the season, you're going, this is not. This is no longer.
It's not funny anymore.
So it's just very, very ugly that there's new and wonderful ways to screw things up.
Yep. I want your opinion on this, guys, but my ugly was the yellow card to Kota Mizunuma. That basically painted him as basically a cheat. It was judged that he went down without being touched. It was then shown that he was touched, and he still keeps the yellow for what will go down as basically a simulation because yellows can't be rescinded. So I don't know. It just didn't. Yeah, it just didn't sit right with me. I mean,
are you pro VAR or against it?
Oh, well, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
If you're against VAR, then you got to accept that officials make mistakes across the board. And are we over sanitizing and re-refereeing too much of the game? Mistakes happen all the time.
Yep.
Glory make plenty of them. Could see goals, players make mistakes, officials make mistakes. It's a yellow card at this stage of the season. Is it going to rule them out of anything? Is it going to be hitting the threshold? I know that's in this situation. It could be different for the players, but on the one hand, we have everybody crying foul about how VAR is ruining the game, but on the flip side, we're also not accepting that officials make mistakes.
Yes. Yep.
So it depends. If you're pro VAR and you'd like everything reviewed, then sure, there's potentially an argument for reviewing every single yellow card. But where do you stop?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
no, fair enough. And I think that's what the ruling was. Is it Jonathan Moss?
John Moss.
Yeah.
Moss.
He said that yellow cards just don't get looked at, don't get rescinded. So that's the way it'll stand. Boys, there we go. Good, bad, and ugly. Let's take a quick break and we'll dive a bit deeper after this. You're on the Far Post Perth podcast.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth podcast. Big thank you, of course, to ID Athletic and Trio Homes. Boys, another loss on the road for the Perth Glory men. Western United 3, Perth Glory 1. Fair to say, boys, I think the only highlight was probably Jalen Pearman's strike. It was, there were some okay numbers as far as statistics goes, but ultimately the one that mattered, it ended up looking pretty poor in the end.
Yeah, and even if you dig deeper into the numbers, you can say that there's been an uptick in the volume of shots in the last 2 games, but even still the quality of those shots, if you convert it to an XG per shot, isn't exactly that good. So while Glory are keeping the ball, they're not exactly doing much with it. Yes, in this game, the press at times in the first half looked okay, but we were unable to sustain it and we were unable to put our foot on the throat. And I think, fans are right to continue to say, well, where's the improvement? We've got a much more settled squad. I mean, David Zulich did mention that it's not normal for a team to be going through that much change in the sense of players, and Glory have a league high number of players used this season in 35. But since January, where things have settled down, we're winless in our last 10, I believe. So
yeah, 10 now.
Yep. So, I mean, what are you really selling? And it's more to Zrilla. It's like, what really are you selling to the fans to say, yeah, we want to see more of what you can coach this team for next season? Because I still think that a lot of our issues, you can put a big finger towards the coaching.
The post-match presser was pretty interesting. There was some
long.
Well, it was long. It was long, but I think there was some pretty good questions in there, and I think a bit of credit has to go to Joey Lynch and Anna Harrington, because it's quite often that Perth will go to an away game and the home media will talk a lot about the home team, and you'll get about 3 minutes. If anyone needs to be pressed at the moment, it is the Perth Glory Football Club and it is David Zrilic. So I'm glad that those questions got asked and got answered.
Answered questionably, though.
Yeah. Well, carry on. Because what did you make of it?
Well, there was the Joey Lynch. He asked the question. So it's the story of your season conceding these soft goals, and I guess 23 games into the campaign. Why are they still happening? You've had lots of time to work on it and prevent them from happening. Why is it still happening? Zrilic basically answered by saying, we're essentially dominating games and we're not playing as badly as we did to start the season. He said, and I quote, I can only put it down to the position on the table. He then tried to justify it by saying that West United were in a similar position last season. The weight of the table position in those moments causes these goals to happen, as it puts pressure on those moments at the game compared to when you're at the top.
He's not entirely wrong with that, because it's a mindset and a mentality thing that you are hesitant to put yourself 100% into a tackle, because if you make a mistake, you know the consequences. Whereas if you're confident in the players around you and everything else, but you make your own luck, and as a coach, you coach a team well to not be in that position. So while some of the goals and whatnot are symptomatic of their situation, who created the situation? How did we get to this point?
A lot of preventable chances that we conceded.
Absolutely. And the league table doesn't lie. There's 2 wins, 16 losses, 16 goals scored in 23 games, 11 points. It's
54 conceded.
Yeah, it's inexcusable. And I think after the game, it was quite telling, and it made me smile a little bit because I was saying weeks ago that they're not sacking him, right? They can't sack, they can't afford to, and also we're probably in a bit too deep with him now to just sack him. And lo and behold, he was talking about next season, and things will be different next season when we have a full preseason with this group of players, and it'll be different when we have less disruption and less changes. But again, it goes back to who caused this disruption. It's not like you came in and inherited a squad from a previous regime where you had to rip it apart in January and you're still figuring things out. It was your squad. And by you, I mean the collective, right? It's not just Rilic, it's the football department, it's the owner. It's there as a new regime coming in the last preseason. It's their mess. They created this. It's their group of players. So while, yes, you can say that some of the issues are symptomatic of where they are and the situation they're in, they caused the situation. So it's a lame excuse and doesn't really wash in the bigger picture. So and I think that the Sale example, and I know Sale is getting hammered, and it is another mistake. But I think a goalkeeper with confidence who is like him, so 6'6", he's ripped, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Comes out and cleans a striker if he's got confidence. Right? If a goalkeeper is confident in that situation, he takes man and ball, he picks the ball up, he sends his defenders up the pitch, and he distributes the play. What happened there was hesitancy, a lack of confidence, and probably knowing in the back of his mind, oh shit, if this goes wrong, and then you cause it to go wrong. But it's symptomatic of the situation.
That's the thing. We played with confidence and a level of intensity in that Auckland game that we hadn't seen all season. So the question of the players' capacity to play at that level, well, it was answered in that game. The problem has been they've been unable to follow it up. And then I question, well, can David really motivate these guys to, if it's not playing for finals, it's playing for pride or playing for the fans or playing so that we can see something that we can get behind. And I think for as much as it is at times a valid excuse to say, okay, well, we are last, these moments can be heightened, but our fundamentals, it's not good enough, as you said. So I think there's definitely some questions that should be asked.
I mean, I'm going back to a point that we've made previously, but the club really do risk losing much of their supporter base based on the decision to keep the coach.
Yep.
And that's what concerns me. That is what concerns me, because David Rilic might be the right man, and he might just need time to get his feet under the desk, and that might be the perfect scenario from here in. But we're not going to know that until midway through next season.
Big risk.
I don't know. I think the right man wins 5 or 6 games this season.
That's a great point.
Well,
and that's what I said last week, that 2 games is untenable. I think win 5 or 6 out of 23, and it's and the performances are good, but winless in 10. It's a salary cap league. There are some shit teams in the league. You should be getting it. You should be picking up a win against a Wellington, against a Mariners, against you should pick up playing them teams 3 times.
Yeah.
You should get results, but they aren't. So that's why I think you might nick one against Adelaide given they're in crap form. So maybe this weekend they'll win a game, but the trend shows that they won't.
Yeah.
That you'll play Adelaide into form.
Yep.
Is more likely the scenario, and they get themselves back into finals play.
Final thoughts, Jackson?
The thing that worries me is basic defensive duties just still costing us. I mean, I'll use some individual examples. First minute of the game, Misao on the wing versus Grimaldi gets outbodied. Ball goes into the box. There's 30 seconds of pinball. Can't clear the lines. Corner, and then goal from the resulting corner.
Misao lost his man.
Yeah, and with the corner as well. And then obviously the second goal, well, just again, Sale needs to do better. I don't know what he's playing Flappy Bird. I don't know what he's doing there.
Is that the one that went around everyone in the box?
Yeah, but again,
I mean, you know what? To be fair, to be fair with that, Sale should have done better. But I think I counted 4 touches from Glory players inside their own box.
Watercoot just missed the tackle. Gamulka was trying to do a scorpion kick. So back to your point. Yeah, defensive problems.
And then even with the third goal, Murchila gets beaten in the air and puts in a half-hearted challenge, and then Waterkootis, he comes, but he doesn't impact the play.
Bad game management. There were 7 players that were ahead of the ball while there were just a few that were left on the halfway line. I get you trying to win the game, but that's just poor game management. There has to be some form of discipline.
We're also not talking about, the COVID season when we were playing all the youngsters. You've got Sale who's in his 30s, Misao in his 30s, Murchila, Risdon, Taggart. there's a lot of experienced players in the Millie, isn't it?
Amos, Pennington.
Yeah.
Older squad than Western, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this team has got lots of experience, and they're still playing like shit.
That again ties in my point about the coaching. I believe that the squad is better than 2 wins. I don't think it's a final squad, but I think it's a squad that's better than 2 wins. So potentially, I mean, it's a confidence or it's a coaching thing. I don't know, but I think the group of players should be winning more than 2 games, and they aren't.
Oh, yeah. Boys, I wanted to move on. Bit of news this week. There will be a Perth Glory fan or supporter forum. Many people have been involved in these over the years, and myself included. It is very, very easy to get quite skeptical about these. It is very, very easy to go, well, you'd never ask my question anyway. There's talk that it will be a virtual fan forum. We had a bit of a discussion offline. I think we all agreed that it would be a much better scenario to have it in a room where you can actually have a proper discussion. You can see people, engage people appropriately, address people appropriately, so on and so forth. I think people are less likely to take it, are more likely to take it much more seriously if they are in the same room. I guess a little bit of advice to anyone that does want to put a question forward is think long and hard about the question that you're asking and try your best to articulate that the best way that you can. As far as trying to get the outcome and the answer that you're after is think those questions through.
Don't treat it like our comment section.
No, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, but I mean, as I said, like, you know, we're not too sure what the story is as far as invitations. We understand that all members will get an invite.
There has been an invite.
There has been an invite. Yep. Okay. So, look, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. I'm looking forward to seeing lots of hard questions asked. I'm looking forward to seeing lots of hard questions answered because I believe that the fans deserve that. And if you want to see the fans back next year, you've got to
level with them.
We are absolutely a broken record when we say you've got to give the fans something to buy into for next year.
Yep.
There are certain things that absolutely will not be answered, and it goes to your point about the questions like how much do you have to pay David Zrilic to get rid of him?
Yeah,
you know, they're not going to talk in money. They're not going to talk in figures like that. How much are you paying off players when you release them from contracts? You know, what are they're not going to talk about anything like that. How much is a player on per week? You won't get any of that information. I'm skeptical of these, having been to a few in the past, because it feels like box ticking / lip service. The virtual aspect of it lends weight to that argument that it's easy to just dial into something and people are just on a laptop screen rather than in person. It's a bit easier. So
have the notes in the background.
So I think I'm a little bit skeptical that it's going to be just an extension of a chairman's note to the fans. You know, that it'll just be pontificating. There'll be some questions. There'll be some smiling and nodding. But I can't see there being anything revolutionary or any big answers.
I'd actually like.
I don't think we'll get much out of it.
I'd actually really like to see an independent mediator there. That when a question is asked, it's answered appropriately and it's asked appropriately on both sides. I'd like to see someone to come in and do that doesn't have a foot in any camp, be it the fans, the club, whatever else.
I'd also like to see who's on the panel, because that will dictate your question,
correct,
right? Your phrasing of a question. Yeah. You're not going to ask something of the owner if he can't be arsed dialing in from Italy or wherever he is. You know, we that should have come out with the invite, that these people have committed to being there, because otherwise, you know, you could give a list. It holds people accountable, right? If they say, now I am going to be there and you can ask your questions of me, well, that's a good start. But at the moment, what they might, it's a conspiracy theory thought, but they might get a load of questions in and go, ooh, let's maybe not put Ross up in front of the fans to answer these questions because they're all directed towards him. Or maybe we won't put David Zrilic up there because it's all really aggressive towards his coaching style, and we can do that. The name should be, this is the panel. direct your questions that you would like asked to the panel, not just give us your questions.
Yeah.
I'd like them to see them take the lead on that and go, you know what, we're going to front up. These people are going to front up and be there in front of the fans virtually. I'm just skeptical of it until we actually see what hard questions are asked and answered. It's only an hour and a half. Considering you might spend 15-20 minutes on a question back and forth and whatnot, you might not get too many questions answered either.
No.
So yeah, and then the obvious thing afterwards is, if it's not lip service, what are the actions? Who holds accountability for taking those actions away and doing something and coming back with a follow up a month or 2 months later? Because if it just disappears into thin air, and that's what happened with some of the previous ones.
Exactly right. Is that you have
nothing ever happened.
You have these meetings, and everyone walks away feeling pretty good about life, and then everyone forgets until the next piece of shit hits the fan, and that's just the way it generally rides. So, I really hope that some good can come of it. I think it's certainly something that I think we need to. Thank Kim Hawkins and the team, because I think they're the ones that have been pushing this hard on behalf of the fans. So I think a fair bit of credit has to go to Kim and the FRG team. But ultimately, let's hope something comes out of the meeting, Jackson.
Yeah, hopefully. Just my word of advice for anyone invited is just, I think you mentioned, but just articulate. Yeah. Just avoid avoid personal attacks or anything like that, because if the club's going to do this in future, and if they want to keep doing it in future, then it's important that
it's not just that, but you don't get anything out of it. You don't get anything out of it when you don't address your question properly. When you don't think about your question. What are you after by asking this particular question? What's the outcome that you're after?
Yeah.
Are you after a yes or no answer? Are you after a little bit more? And there's a few things that you have to think about the world of communication, I guess. Boys, let's keep going. Anasmo to Korea. A little bit out of left field, this one.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's going to be great for Joel to be in that environment over in Korea, learning a different style of football, different culture, different set of expectations, and assuming he comes back he'll be on loan. We understand. So when he comes back to Glory, he will only be better for it. But it's disappointing that he couldn't get more game time here when fans had been screaming.
Well, is he going to get game time in Korea either?
We don't know. I'm pretty sure the press release said that he will be replacing a winger who has gone off to be in the Korean army. I think was
military service.
Yeah, military service.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if he can play, that'd be fantastic. But again, just even him being involved in that environment will be a benefit. But it's a loss for us that we couldn't see more of Joel when there had been players that had been playing over him that many fans would say, no, prioritise West Australian players. Anasmo was someone that showed potential last season. He should have been getting more goes in the team than some of the other guys that have been there.
Just to quickly move on, boys, we're starting to run.
Really quick. I think sometimes with players, the less they play, the better people think they are.
Sure.
So while I don't think Anasmo, I think he deserved the chance. He probably wasn't going to be the saviour. But if you're looking at Patrick Wood being in the team, Miliusnic being in the team, he absolutely deserved more minutes. And he had an injury at the start of the season. He had an illness. But for me, the last probably 6-7 weeks, there's no excuse as to why in one of those positions where those aforementioned players were playing, he wasn't given a run. If a Korean side of that magnitude is even looking at him as a squad player, and then this is the sort of thing that you should ask at the fan forum.
Yeah.
Why was Joel Anasmo not deemed good enough for a start in the team when a Korean club is quite happy to take him as on a visa?
Yeah.
So there's clearly something there. So they're the sort of questions you could ask of the football department, I would think.
All right, just to quickly move through a few other things. A-League women's, Perth Glory women, Jackson, what's happening?
Well, with the Matildas, obviously, this week, they had the week off.
Yep.
Looks like their final hopes are done and dusted, so they're up to Sydney this week against the Sky Blues, and then after that, back home for the last game of the season against the tabletop Melbourne City.
Is it Tatham who did an ACL as well? One of the girls there,
Natalie
Tatham. Yeah. That's a big shout out to her. It's never easy for a player of that. And I particularly feel, I think I feel a little bit worse when it's some of the female players that move all the way across the other side of the country. They've got to get a job. They've got to get a house. There's a few more things rolling as far as that goes. Yeah. So it is a bit of a difficult predicament. So wishing her all the best. Right, let's quickly just get through some A-League results and then we will move on to a few other things. Brisbane 1, Macarthur 5, Auckland 1, Wanderers 1, Melbourne City 1, Central Coast 0, Western United 3, Perth 1, Adelaide 2, Sydney 3, Newcastle 1 and Wellington 2. Any big standouts there, boys? I know we mentioned the
Adelaide, Sydney.
Yeah, Adelaide. Yeah, I think that was a
late winner.
A must-win for Sydney, really.
Yeah, and they got it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the round that was, Neil?
No, it's just tight.
Yeah.
Between probably 3rd and 8th. 4 points separating Melbourne City down to Macarthur. So, yeah, still plenty to play for in those final spots. And as I said earlier, Adelaide, 3 losses and 2 draws in the last 5 games. They'll be played into form this weekend.
There we go. We thought we might put out something a little bit different on the social media today. And, I didn't really know what to expect from this, but we thought we just wanted more people just to enter the conversation a little bit more. And we asked if you could ask us anything to do with the world of football, what would it be? And just as James starting to shake his head, he's come across something he doesn't want to say. But I'll let Neil go through this just for censorship's sake.
Oh, right. Well, I'll swear. This Neil, would you ever watch the worst game Perth has ever played 27 times and record a podcast about it after each watch? And that's coming from the worst game of all time, which is imaginatively named. So the worst glory game ever.
Yeah.
Would you watch it 27 times and after each watch record a podcast?
No.
What is the worst glory game of all time?
That was going to be my next question.
It's got to be the 6-1 at the start of the season, isn't it?
Or the 8-0.
Oh, 8-0.
Are we talking about just this season? I thought this was
ever.
Yeah. Worst glory I reckon the grand final loss might have been
which one?
2000, when we were 3-0 up at halftime against Wollongong.
Oh,
that's probably. Thanks. Wasn't a lot.
PTSD's back.
Wasn't even a life for that. Wasn't even a life for that. But that's probably going to be. That's probably going to be.
We had that benefit.
Yeah. I would say the grand final at home to Sydney.
Oh, that was a shocker.
That wasn't a great game.
Well, 1, it was a bad game. 2, it was a great team. It was a great glory team.
Yeah.
3, you dropped your top goal scorer for the game right before kickoff. And 4, you got the Panenka. And 5, I mean, typical glory fashion, to get 60,000 people for a game and put on no show, fail to turn up completely in that game. Yeah. I think that's the worst game for me because of
the hope
potential. At least when you're shit, you know you're shit. I mean, what's the difference between losing 5-0 and 8-0? You know, you're a shit team, right? That's you've made yourself comfortable with that by the time. But I felt that was where I was convinced that team was going to win the grand final and get the monkey off the back because of the occasion, because of how good the squad was, because the coach had everybody purring. Everybody, we spoke to Dino Julbic here. Everybody would run through a wall for the coach, and yet it came to that game and they gave us nothing. It just completely went against my expectations. Would I watch 27 times? I've watched other things 27 times, so potentially. But a podcast each time will probably be a bit of overkill. But I could probably do some reflections on that and pick out things that irked me throughout it. Yeah, I remember, quite a few things about that game and just a failure to create chances from a team that purred all season.
Yeah.
So that to me is probably the worst glory game of all time again, in terms of expectations versus reality.
Yep. What else have we got as far as questions, boys?
Do it.
If it's a stupid question, you're reading out who it came from.
Yeah,
they can own this.
Freddie, how has David Zulich and Stan Lazaridis not been arrested for stealing a living?
I think even they'd probably admit that it hasn't been what they'd hoped, what they'd liked, or anything else. And that's I think they'd probably admit that there's been some failures across the board. And I think there's probably been a bit of rhetoric from them that it hasn't been good enough as well. So I don't think we have to get on that line.
Really right. Is this episode going to be focusing on the Maccabee Soccer Club, given that you mentioned that?
Well, I said keep it kosher, but it was a bit of a terminology about let's just keep it all clean, let's keep it proper.
No, it's not.
No. Ewan Gray, does the A-League just need time to grow or does it need big change? Bit of a Broad question.
Part column A, part column B.
Well, I mentioned it earlier. We need a longer season. We need more games. We need more teams. For me, so give us Canberra in the men's, Tasmania, maybe another Queensland team. Boost it up to, I would love eventually 18 teams. Everybody play each other twice, 34 league games across the season. Lends more weight to better facilities, better infrastructure, independence, everything else. So that's what I'm big on. Look, there's variables and all sorts of financial considerations in that, but I feel if we're gonna be a powerhouse code, we need to have a longer season, play more games. It's better for our development of our players who are going really well at the moment. But the more football they play at the top level, the better it's going to be. So for me, we do need time to grow, but we don't need 50 years to do that.
Yep. Any more questions?
The one that was on Facebook. Halfpenny for your thoughts on the 1866 offside rule change. Look, it was a breakaway and a change from the rugby style.
Yeah.
And it brought in much more realistic offside to what we see today. So it probably pioneered what we see today with the offside rule, where you have to have two players, one of them, including the goalkeeper, as in between the ball and the receiving player. So I think it was 3 at that stage. So they shifted the rules basically to allow people to be in what would be different attacking positions.
Yep.
But it was born out of the breakaway from rugby.
That would have been really interesting back in the Brazil 1950s when they played like 7 up front.
The old WM formation that I studied as a kid, like a big loser. I was learning about football history. Yeah, all of that. So yes. Anyway,
no, all good. No worries. Thanks for sending through those thoughts. Let's take a quick break, boys, and we'll wrap things up after this.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Tired of the same old cookie cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service, and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
Final part of the Far Post Perth podcast. Just about set to wrap things up. A couple of results to mention across this week, Jackson.
Yeah, in the NPL men's, let's go run through Glory. 4-1 over Florida Athena. I think Seb Desvetowski might have scored a pretty good goal.
Good free kick.
Perth SC.
Yep.
Your mob, right?
Yep. Flying.
Away win over Sorrento.
Big win.
Bayswater City with a 3-0 win over Western Knights.
Also flying at the moment, Basie.
And then some drubbings in the NPLW. Perth with a 4-0 away win over UWA. Red Star 6-0 over Subi. And then Balcatta Etna 5-0 away win over... I mean, it says Mum FC. What's the actual...
Murdoch Uni Melville.
Murdoch Uni Melville.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously they're an old merger between those two clubs as well. We won't go through any state league, boys, because we are running a little bit short on time. Matilda's 2 wins from 2. Pretty good window for them as well. Just having a quick look ahead to the window. A-League Women's across the weekend. Melbourne City take on Newcastle Friday. Also Friday is the Central Coast v Melbourne Victory. Saturday is Sydney v Perth. Also Western United v Adelaide. Sunday is Brisbane v Wanderers. And also on Sunday is Canberra v Wellington. I'll get some tips for you as we go around the table. Melbourne City v Brisbane in the A-League Men's. City.
Yeah, City.
City for me as well. Wellington v Melbourne Victory.
Should be a victory win.
Yeah, I think victory too.
Yeah, victory. Yeah,
I'm going to pick a draw in that one. I'm going to pick a draw. I think Wellington might just have maybe just a couple of stings in the tail, and Melbourne victory just not as consistent as probably what they would have liked this season so far. Sydney v Auckland. This is probably maybe game of the round, if not Wanderers Western United.
Draw.
Draw between Sydney and Auckland.
Yeah.
Auckland.
Auckland away win.
I think Sydney will win.
I think Sydney will win. That's going to really, rattle the cage as well. I'm going to be a bit boring and just go for a draw in that one as well, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone did score a cheeky winner there either. Newcastle Central Coast F3 Derby.
I think Newcastle. Just
Central Coast with no confidence.
Draw.
What did Central Coast? Central Coast, they only went down to Melbourne City 1-0 last one. Yeah,
it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I think,
They're pretty uninspiring,
They
but
are.
Newcastle are also
they're
not inspiring either.
They're all starting to put the cue in the rack, aren't they?
Yep.
As far as finals go. So, draw. Perth v Adelaide United. Can Perth get something out of their last home fixture?
Be nice if we could.
It would be nice.
It would be nice.
I'm on commentary this week, so
Just for the players, play out of your skin. Just put in a good performance so we can go home happy for once.
Yeah.
But I think probably Adelaide they need a win, so I think they'll just get it done.
Yeah.
Heart's saying yes, head is going the complete opposite direction. So
Neil, need I ask?
There's a scene in The Simpsons where Homer is watching baseball and he stands up and says, "Hurry up and lose so we can get out of here." That might be me and a few hundred others just before the game. It's where my head's at.
There'll be Gen Zs out there that won't know what the hell you're talking about because we've come to that point.
I told you that I'm happy that we're getting towards the season's end. It's a 7:45 kickoff on a Saturday. It's not child friendly. It's the last home game. Haven't won in 10. Bottom of the ladder. It's hard to get up for it.
I do like the later kickoffs though. Generally speaking, I do like a 7:45 kickoff.
It'd be nice if it was a blockbuster, then we were doing well.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But I just find it like that. It's that good time. It's that sweet
6:45
spot.
is the best time that I'd say.
It's a sweet spot on a Saturday night.
2-0 loss.
2-0 loss. All right, there you go. I can't see a win. No, not at all. Sunday last game, Wanderers v Western United.
Wanderers.
Wanderers.
Draw.
Western United for me. I think they've got a bit of spark. I think they've. If it goes down with Sydney beating Auckland and Western United winning, it sets up a really good show. Last game of the season is Western United v Auckland. That'd be really, really cool. Guys, let's wrap things up. Big thank you
to...
We
have a bowl prediction.
All right, go.
Anyone else have one?
I don't know.
It'll be a 4-3 win to Wanderers. It'll be a high-scoring game.
Go.
Pitch invasion to HBF Park.
No. What, for a win?
No. Someone will get really angry and just try and storm it Zrillish or something.
No, they won't.
Stupid like that.
That'd be silly.
Adelaide will win 2-0, but won't actually score a goal.
No.
2 own goals, you reckon? Rubbish. Big thank you to Trio Homes. Big thank you to ID Athletic for their ongoing support throughout the year. Don't forget, you can grab this as a podcast each and every week. Tell all of your family about it. Tell your mum, tell your nanny. She can grab it on Spotify, Apple, and of course, YouTube Music. Until next time, enjoy your football throughout the week. This has been the Far Post Perth Podcast.